we have yet another update in the Dame Lillard trade saga. This time now sees the Raptors reportedly moving into the pole position to land Dame Lillard. But more importantly, with the Chicago Bulls, we're going to talk about why this season, one of the most important things about the season is the development of the young players. We're going to talk about all that, plus dive into the mailbag a little bit right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Sir Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. And first, we're actually going to lead first with the Bulls topic, right? We've talked a lot about what this team could be this season, right? And even though I think that the most optimistic Bulls fans do see that there is a cap on what this team can be, right? If everything does work together, this core three really plays better together. Billy Donovan adds some wrinkles into that offense, better utilizes players like Nikola Vucevic and does more catch and shoots for Zach LaVine. But, it hasn't really upped the ceiling hugely for the Chicago Bulls. And one of the things that, we've talked about pretty consistently is that the thing that will up the ceiling the most for this team even in the future or much of the season is if one of the young players or several of the young players take a step or a leap, right? And that's what you want to see for this team. And I think that is kind of one of my biggest gripes with Billy Donovan as a head coach, right? Is that I think that, and it's because of the construction of the roster. This roster is, built to try to win games now, not necessarily compete for a title now, but to win games now. But to really get to that point, we have to see development from a few of the young players. Hopefully all of them take some steps in progressing towards the player that they're ultimately going to be. And one of the first players in that is the one that we've been talking about for years now, and that is Patrick Williams. Now, I've said this. When it comes to Patrick Williams, I don't think with the makeup of this current team, he's going to get the shots to grow and blossom offensively. But we've talked about the things that Patrick Williams needs to do to up his own game and to be a better gap filler is what we've labeled it for Patrick Williams this upcoming season. And I think we're going to see that growth, right? And through that growth of him defensively, right? And doing things like attacking the boards a little bit more, right? Or a lot of bit more in some cases, right? Blocking shots. But I would say that growth from Patrick Williams defensively is the specific thing, because if he can become such a versatile defensive weapon for the Chicago Bulls, which is what he has always kind of showed the signs to be, but if he can be that more consistently, it drastically changes the ceiling for the Chicago Bulls. And then another player that put a lot together last season is Coby White. I think when you see the growth from Coby White, right, and what he's done with the ball handling, with, playing off ball, with defending, both, being a weak side defender, an off ball defender, on ball defender, just upping that awareness that we've seen from Coby White in that area, on top of his ball handling, his passing, his overall basketball IQ for Coby White has really been on the rise the last season or so. We want to see that as well. And so when you look at Coby as well, bringing that scoring punch that this Chicago Bulls team will need off the bench, right? And that is one of the reasons why I do see Coby White coming off the bench for the Chicago Bulls, is because he's the one player on this team that really you can see being a scoring punch off the bench. Alex Caruso, a defensive player. Even with Javon Carter, if Coby White does start, he's more of a shooter than a scorer, right? Ayo Dosunmu, we know he's a slasher, but not necessarily a scorer either. His biggest attributes is also on the defensive side of the ball. So Coby White has such a clear-cut role for him. If he does not win that starting point guard position, that's still going to be extremely needed, especially when you look at the fact he can play next to Javon Carter, he can play next to Zach LaVine, right? He adds so much versatility to what you can bring off the bench in the way that he can play. So does Alex Caruso. But again, we're talking specifically about being that offensive threat that the Bulls just do not have by anybody else being on that bench, right? And so Coby, I think him really taking another step is hugely important for this team as well. And then Dalen Terry, right? Dalen and Ayo, kind of Julian Phillips, all the other young players are kind of in the same area, right? These are going to be players that, I think are going to have hard times to consistently get the same minutes night in and night out. They're going to be parts of the rotation, I would hope, especially like Julian Phillips coming in, playing more of that Derrick Jones Jr. role. And the reason why, I'm starting to come around on the thought of Julian Phillips playing a little bit more his rookie years, because when you look at the way that Derrick Jones Jr. was used, right? Yes, part of it is because Derrick Jones Jr. is a veteran, right, in this league. But I think also that inconsistent minutes that Derrick Jones Jr. had. The fact that one night he'll play 20 minutes, one day it'll be 5 minutes, another day it'll be 8, then it'll be 12, right? And I think that you could see Billy Donovan kind of relying on a rookie to do that, because if he's not playing well and that defense isn't or he's not rebounding the ball well either, it's not going to be anything to yank him. So I think that, Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips, they're going to really have to hang their hat on one particular skill, right? Whatever that is, whether it's Julian Phillips bringing energy, defense or rebounding, whether it's Dalen Terry bringing transition passing, defense, getting out in transition, right? Forcing turnovers, which Dalen Terry can do with his length, right? And Ayo Dosunmu much the same, right? How Ayo Dosunmu can be a push the pace guard, and I think coming off the bench, he can play a little bit more of what's his natural game. But make no mistake about it, those 5 players that I mentioned, and then you can also throw in Adama Sanago down there in the Windy City Bulls, right? Ornalot Bidham down there with the Windy City Bulls, right? Justin Lewis as well down there with the Windy City Bulls, right? The young guard of the Chicago Bulls, and by guard I mean kind of the next man up, not their own guards, but like for the Bulls to really up their ceiling in the future, because it doesn't seem like a superstar is coming to the Chicago Bulls. I don't see them really signing a big name free agent, right? Hopefully they can, right? But it really comes down to these young players taking the next step. And that is one of the biggest stories looking at with the Chicago Bulls. Yes, we can win a lot of games with our core 3, with our veterans, with adding Javon Carter, adding Torrey Craig. This Bulls team should win 42 to 45 games this season, right? But for the future, the bright spots of the future for this Bulls team, and for us to have a better outlook on this Bulls team going forward, it's going to take more than them. One of the biggest and most important things this season is development. And that's why you saw the Bulls hire a head of player development. And then they added another development coach this offseason. I forget his name. I'm sorry for not giving him his shine by using his name. But we added another one this summer, right? Then you looked at a couple of years ago, we added one of the best shooting coaches as well from overseas that came down to the Windy City Bulls, right? So I see AK making the maneuvers to help with player development, right? The biggest thing is that it also has to come with some in-game reps. Players can only develop so much in practice, and I know a lot of it's done there, and they can only develop to a certain point in the G League as well. That level of competition caps off at a certain point, right? You want to see them refine some things. That's why I think like Ornalot Bidham is down there to really refine his game, to make it, to adjust to the American style of basketball some. But overall, this team, for us to really take a step, we're going to need one of the young players that's younger than 25 to make a step and to show or to start showing that they can be part of the Bulls' plan going forward. They're already part of the plan to a certain degree, but I mean a big part of the plan. And so, we've drafted a lot of young, talented, but very raw players the last handful of years, and we need to start seeing that rawness be refined into some NBA skills. And so hopefully that starts happening, right? And, I think the world of P. Will. You guys know, Kobe White, I was one of the first people about 3 years ago now, almost at this point, with 3 off seasons ago, that I said one of my first big videos to pop off was that the Bulls would be crazy to trade Kobe White. And that was at a time where most Bulls fans looked at Kobe White as the clear odd man out going into that trade deadline. And so, I really want to see, and all these young players, they do have potential. But to my own point, something that I say constantly on the show, potential is not always realized. And so we got to start seeing the realization of the potential of these young players if we're going to really take that next step up that we all want to see from the Chicago Bulls team. But hey, let me know what you guys think on all that down below. But we're going to update another one coming from Mark Spears, who, like I say, and listen, I know that it seems like I come at people, I just give my honest opinion. But like I said, Mark Spears is somebody who a headline will come out of nowhere so he can get more airtime. And that's exactly what happened when he came out with the mysterious team in the East. Now he's on ESPN more. But Mark J. Spears came out and said that the Raptors are now viewed as the team that are ahead of the pack as far as in the Dame Lillard sweepstakes. Now, I don't know how much I believe that, but we're going to go to it. He says this. The hottest name I'm hearing right now of interest is the Toronto Raptors actually talked to 2 really high-ranking team executives today, and they said Toronto is the front runner, and they wouldn't be surprised if he ended up in the 6. So this is the thing, right? And this is what I want to talk about with this. This Dame Lillard thing, I'm just ready for it to be over personally. But, to hear like now the Toronto Raptors are potentially moving into the head position for that, when we all know that Dame Lillard, he will report to training camp. I know there's that thing of, he won't report to training camp if it's any team but the Miami Heat. Believe me, Dame Lillard ain't about to leave $40 million on the table by not reporting to training camp. He's just not going to. But Mark J. Spears also says this. Right now, there's no trade imminent. There's nothing hot, but I do know Toronto is an interested suitor. They've had several conversations with the Blazers. Now, when you look at the Toronto Raptors, right, and what they have, the Toronto Raptors, unlike, the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls, they own their own first-round picks outright, all of them. So they can add in more first-round. Keep in mind, the Miami Heat were offering pick swaps. The Toronto Raptors, much like I said with the New York Knicks, can offer picks outright and throw in pick swaps on top of that for the years that they can't give up their own pick because of the Stepien rule, right? And then they have a lot of young talent as well that may be in line with Portland's, development, right? As far as their timeline now with them going younger, right? They also have picks like they have Anunoby, right? But they also have Christian Koloko. They have Precious Achiuwa, right? They have Grady Dick, who they just drafted with the number 13th overall pick on top of that to throw into that trade mix if they really want Dame Lillard. Now, I will say this, Dame goes to Toronto. I don't necessarily see that team really, depending on what they give up, really, yeah, they make the playoffs, right? Dame, I think when you pair him with any of the players that they have still down there, I think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think the writing is on the wall at that point. And, maybe as we're hearing more that Portland is more open to making the right move for them and then letting the team that Dame goes to be the team that eventually sends them to the Miami Heat. I don't know, but when it comes down to it, this Dame, all this craziness around Dame Lillard, I'm tired of. I know a lot of people are tired of as well. The Toronto Raptors, I guess, make some sense when you look at the assets of it, but I don't know, man. I don't really know when it comes down to it. I'm not really worried about it, but it does seem like the Portland Trailblazers want to move Dame out east. Maybe that's because they don't want to see him as much being in the Western Conference, but hey, we'll see if he does. And, I think that a Dame Lillard trade to the Toronto Raptors doesn't necessarily change the trajectory of the Toronto Raptors a lot. Maybe I'm off on that one. You guys can let me know down below, but hey, that's the latest on the Dame Lillard sweepstakes. But okay, we got two voicemails we're going to get into today. You guys have been going off in the voicemails. This one's from the 269.
Hey there, Haize. It's the same dude from the same 269 number. I got another thing I want to, have you get your take here on it. Do you really think that we can maybe put a guy in, put Lonzo in? And, put a guy like Lonzo in for a Tyler Hero trade. And, I don't really think, in my opinion, that would be, that the Heat would be down to do that, because considering Lonzo's been out for the last 3 to 4 years, he may not be the same type of player that he was before. And I feel like as a GM, I would not take a trade with Lonzo in it because of that reason. And I mean, as much as I really love Lonzo when he played, I genuinely think that he's not going to be the player he was before. And I don't think he will be playing to the same level as he was before. So I just want to see what your take is on it. And, that's only if I get on the podcast. I don't even know if I will, but, I appreciate it, and keep up the good work, Doug.
Can we use Lonzo in the Tyler Hero trade? Well, keep in mind, and what I talked about is that potentially Lonzo's contract being used as a filler. And I think with a team like the Toronto Raptors that are really just trying to match salary, and if the Bulls were the third team in the Dame Lillard trade that ended up sending Tyler Hero to the Chicago Bulls, and the Chicago Bulls sent out Lonzo Ball's contract, Portland would look at that and say, we know he's not playing this year. It's one more year left on that contract after that. We're probably not competing for playoffs by then, right? And I think a team like that's timeline is so far out that they'd be willing to absorb it just because they're trying to get rid of salary. In that case, they're trying to avoid taking on salary in Tyler Hero. Now, do I think it's likely? No. I think moving Lonzo's deal right now, it would have to be such the perfect scenario in which a team is trying to go so young that they aren't worried about sniffing the playoffs for the next 2 or 3 years, right? That they are really more concerned on upping the own value of their own picks, which the Portland Trailblazers would be at that time. But make no mistake about it, it would be extremely hard to move Lonzo Ball's contract. But if a team is willing to take it, I think that AK has to explore that opportunity. So that's kind of my thought process in that. Let me know what you guys think down below. Let's get into this next one. This one's from JD.
How you doing, Haize? My name is JD, and it's just a little hot take. And I was thinking about when you said what if you traded DeMar DeRozan to, what was it, I think, the Heat, and in return you can get, you said maybe Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, and maybe even Kyle Lowry. Now just think about this starting team right here. You got point guard Kobe White, shooting guard Zach LaVine, small forward Patrick Williams, power forward Torrey Craig, and center Nikola Vucevic, with a backup team of Javon Carter, Alex Caruso, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and Andre Drummond. You can also rotate these characters in whenever you like. Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, Onward Benham, Julian Phillips, and another center, Adama Sanat. Just tell me how you feel.
All right, now JD, I never posed that trade. And when I was talking about DeRozan possibly going to the Miami Heat, I think Pat, the designer, kind of presented that as part of a larger trade package that we were talking about. But listen, the everything you mentioned is everything that the Miami Heat are trying to give up for Dame. We're not getting that back for DeMar. More so if that they wanted to send out all of their bad contracts, some of that going to Portland, some of that coming to Chicago, to then, re-up with adding DeMar and Dame Lillard to the Miami Heat. Now, that's a highly unlikely. We talked about it even on Locked On Bulls. That was a complete meathead trade. But I don't see the Chicago Bulls moving DeMar DeRozan this season. I think they should explore it, but I don't see them realistically moving DeMar DeRozan this season. But hey, where do things have happened? You never quite know. And listen, if AK is really trying to find the best maneuvers for the future of the Bulls, not just the now, but the future, I mean, he should listen to some offers. But, we'll see what that ends up being when it comes to DeMar DeRozan. But I think the easy money bet is DeMar DeRozan is going to get an extension with the Chicago Bulls. But we'll end up seeing what happens with that. But as far as the lineup that you presented, I don't really see that being like this big time thing that really does much for the Bulls or in the Eastern Conference. But a lot of trades right now that are kind of pushed forward by the media and other ones that I hear for the Bulls are kind of just to do something different. And I think it really highlights that how some Bulls fans, I'm not saying you, some Bulls fans really just want, I really do think that there are a number of Bulls fans that if you put a mask, a fake mustache, and shave Zach LaVine's head and moved him to a different team and just called him Lackery Zavin, right? And the Bulls traded for him, the Bulls players would be like, yeah, we made that trade, just because they just want to see something different, right? And I don't think that that's going to be something that we actually see happening. But hey, it is what it is, man. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for our mailbag episodes, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.